Getting published is really exciting, but it's not the point of writing. The actual writing is what it's all about. The daily joy in sitting down to a blank page and crafting something beautiful or funny or heart-wrenching or even just blah, depending on the day. Bridget McNulty.
You're listening to Writing Roots, brought to you by Aspen House Publishing.
Welcome to Writing Roots. I'm Lee Hull.
And I'm Lee Esses. And this final bit of bad advice that we have for you this month is that if something is unpublished, it's therefore bad. If something is published, it must be good.
This is something you're going to run into a lot, especially all of you who have finished Nano now. Congratulations, no matter what stage you got to. And now you're going to be looking into publishing. And there's this misconception that all published books, especially traditionally published books, are good, that they are without fault, and that we can look to all of them for a guidance in how books should be. And that is just outright wrong.
We mentioned last Thursday that there's this idea that people who teach can't actually do the thing that they're teaching. And part of the evidence that we brought up is that a lot of people who are experts in their field also have dabbled in teaching and writing a book on whatever their field is. So it's easy to swing the pendulum too far the other direction and go, well, they wrote a novel about it, therefore they must be an expert on something. Not necessarily the case.
I think a lot of this kind of stems from how reading has been a part of so many cultures. In most cultures, reading was kind of an elitist thing where you had to be of a high enough class to be able to learn, and all of the things that you were reading were some form of either government official document or it was a religious text of some kind. So these things that are kind of seen as indisputable fact and that they are coming from an authority. Some of that idea has translated into modern writing.
And in those more modern times, a lot of the places that you go to find facts, I'm more talking about news outlets at this point, also wrote it down. So seeing that text has this ingrained trust into it. And so a lot of people are more inclined to trust whatever is written down than something that they heard, because that might be an opinion, it might be an apocryphal story, whereas in reality, they have about the same value as far as honesty.
And in the same vein, there is also an idea that self-publishing is not actually publishing, that it doesn't actually count as being published, so it doesn't count as being good. And there are a lot of self-published books out there that are very contradictory to this idea. A lot of self-published became very popular books. Look at Aragon, look at The Martian. All of these books are national bestsellers turned into movies, not very good movies, but movies.
I like The Martian.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Martian. I'm thinking more like Aragon. And they all started as self-published. So with his mindset, you would have looked at those and thought, that's not a real book. That's not worth my time.
And on the other side of that coin, if something is traditionally published, it might not be the best book ever. I have read plenty of terrible traditionally published books. I wouldn't say that my statistics as far as what I read, outside of when I'm binging a favorite author, I wouldn't say that statistically either side is superior, at least in my experience. Now, you can probably already guess, we really hate this idea that published equals good.
We could rant on it forever.
But we did want to highlight some of the things that make it really bad advice.
For me, the first thought is that publishing, especially traditional and definitely not self, is not a guarantee of quality. I've read traditionally published books that had some severe problems with the characterization, with the story arcs, with the ending in general. I will always think of Breaking Dawn when I fell asleep at what should have been the most important part of the book, because it was boring. It was objectively bad.
Another thing that proves that published equals good is terrible advice is that everyone I know that's published a book has looked back on the book and thought, hey, I could have done that better. I've published a bunch of books now, and I still look back on them and go, you know what? This could have been better here. This moment could have been better. Publishing does not mean perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I know of no one who's published a book who would agree with that concept.
The other thing to remember is that anyone can write anything down, and almost anyone can get something published. They can get it bound into an official-looking book. I like to use the same logic towards this as early Wikipedia. Anyone can go into Wikipedia and change information, so do not rely on it as your only source. The same thing goes with books. Do not rely on the definition of a good book to be only published, and especially not to be traditionally published.
And like our opener said, if you are writing to be published and therefore be taken seriously, then you're writing for the wrong reasons. The joy of writing comes in accomplishing something that no one else has done, comes in telling a story that no one else has told, comes in those little details and discoveries about yourself along the way. It does not come from having that title of, woo, published author, now I'm worth something.
And then, of course, there's always the publishing, especially traditionally publishing, is a bit of a pay-to-play industry. To get published, you have to invest money. You have to invest wealth, not necessarily quality. There are exceptions of people who have just exceptionally good manuscripts that can get published, or they can get a massive following on social media that will get them the attention of a traditional publisher. But that wealth does not equal good, does not equal quality. It just means they had enough funds, had enough networking to be able to get their book published.
There are some upsides to this mentality that we do want to point out. So some of the mindset that you can take away for yourself. One of which is that being published is still a goal and still an accomplishment.
Because the publishing process can be very vital to growing as an author, to growing as a writer. Going through the editing process, having beta readers, and having to do marketing, all of that is a way to help you grow, help your book grow. So long as you are going to the right resources, finding the right editors, finding the right readers that can give you honest, critical feedback to make your book better. So in that sense, yes, publishing a book done the right way can make a book better.
And publishing a book can affect your credibility. Not always in a positive light, so make sure the book that you're publishing is quality, that there is something behind it. But if you are looking to be a motivational speaker, publishing a book will allow people to take your story home with them in a paper format. And it also gives you a way to monetize your story beyond just the motivational speaking. Hey, buy my book and you get an extra $10 for it.
This reminded me of the mentality that I tend to have of being self-published. Instead of talking to people and be like, yeah, I'm an author. I have a couple of published books. I always want to qualify it with, but I'm just self-published. And I need to stop that, because just because my book is self-published does not make it any worse quality or any less of an accomplishment than being traditionally published. If any of you out there are doing that as well, stop. We'll all work on it together.
And anytime you hear Lee say something like that, call her out on it, slap her hand on Instagram or whatever it is that you do. Let her know, hey, the other Lee said bad.
When you are confronted with this idea that to be good, it has to be published, there are a few ways that you can respond. The first, of course, is to congratulate the person on the accomplishment of being published. That is huge. Because if that is their goal, if that was their success, then that's what we should be celebrating.
Another way that I respond is to not read that book. If someone's trying to tell me this is published, therefore it's good and it's better than anything else you've ever read in your entire life, I doubt them severely. The people who are saying published is better, and especially traditionally published is better, are not the people I want to support with my money in reading the book. And I doubt that their book is actually any good anyway. So instead, If you find authors that you enjoy, support them. Follow them on social media, sign up for their newsletter, whatever it takes, so that when their next book comes out, you know, and you can buy the next book, because there are way too many good books out there to waste your time on bad books.
And there are plenty of published bad books. So it is worth knowing that we can't go to all published books to be a good resource of this is an example that I can follow. It is worth knowing that just because you haven't published your book yet doesn't mean that it's bad. You are working on it. It is something that can be very good. And if you are holding back publishing because you're worried it's not good, do it anyway. You will find more than likely that you will have such a good feeling out of that accomplishment of being published, even if it is self-published, that you can say, hey, I made this. I created this. This came from my brain, and I want to share it with anybody. Even if that's just my family, even if that's just one random person. It is such a good feeling to know that you're published.
But like our opener said, being published, though it's a really exciting, very healthy goal to have, is not the point of writing. It's more important that you write something you can enjoy, something that you like to write, a story that you want to tell. And you won't enjoy writing unless you
write selfishly.
If you have a question or comment for our hosts or a topic you'd like us to cover, send us an email at writingroots@aspenhousepublishing.com or find us on Facebook by searching for Aspen House Publishing.